Happy Friday, welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock. Cowherd is off. Coming up, I'll tell you how Colin Kaepernick supporters are actually hurting him. And I'll show you the one thing that could prevent LeBron from winning another title. Speak for Yourself starts now. Next. It's Friday. Cowherd's disappeared on me. Still got a great show. Hello and welcome. Joining me today is actor Michael Rappaport, Hall of Fame running back Eric Dickerson, and Fox Sports Radio host Doug Gottlieb. We start with a major development in the NFL. After months of rumors that the Cowboys might cut long-term wide receiver and chronic complainer Dez Bryant, today, owner Jerry Jones made it official. In a statement, Jones said that cutting Dez was not an easy decision, but that it was in the best interest of the team. Now some people think Dallas waited too long to make this move. The Chargers' Russell Okung, who played with Dez at Oklahoma State, tweeted, "Cold-blooded to cut Dez Bryant so late in the offseason. Shows you where the team allegiances really are." Then Dez responded to that tweet saying, "You know how they play." This is silly. To me, the Cowboys have done nothing wrong. They tried to wait Dez out. Jerry Jones is very close to Dez, wanted to keep Dez, wanted Dez to come to his senses that, hey, you're going to have to take a pay cut. You're worth less money, but we'd like to keep you here in Dallas. They waited and waited and waited. If Dez wanted out of Dallas, he should have started running his mouth, cut me now so I can move on. I'm not going to take a pay cut. He could have made his position crystal clear. I don't think they've mishandled this at all. I think they were in a difficult situation where the owner wanted to hold on to Dez Bryant because of his affinity and close relationship with him. But they haven't done Dez wrong. Dez could have taken this situation to his own hands and said, I want out of here, I'm not taking a pay cut, and they probably would have obliged him.
Well, me personally, I feel like that I'm with you. I don't think they did him wrong. I know one thing, Jerry Jones is loyal. I like his loyalty to his players, sometimes loyalty to a fault. And one thing is you're right. If Dez would have took a pay cut, I don't know what the situation was. I think if he took a pay cut early, he'd have been a Cowboy. I think he should still, I really believe he should have stayed in Dallas because he's not going to find that $12 million or $10 million out there anywhere. I do like that Jerry Jones set the meeting up. I want to have you come. That's what I like about Jerry. Not I had my head coach call you, I had the general manager call you, or your position coach call you. You come in, you talk to the owner, the guy who makes the decisions. Look, this is not going to work for us. You know, if you're not going to want to take a pay cut, we're going to have to let you go. And Jerry did it. I mean, and as much as he says it, you look to say he loves Dez Bryant. One thing about Jerry Jones, his players, man, he is loyal to a certain. Emmitt Smith played in Arizona. Sometimes you just have to move on.
You got a problem with that, Mike? I mean, you don't think Jerry loves Dez Bryant?
Jerry doesn't love anybody. Jerry loves Jerry. Jerry loves that money, and Jerry loves that honey. And listen, if he's like a son to him, he could have figured this out months ago, so he could have maybe wound up with something like Jarvis Landry money.
He ain't getting Jarvis. He ain't getting Jarvis.
Old school dudes, man. Listen, as much as I like to see dysfunction in Dallas, because I'm a New York Giants fan, I don't think this was the right way to handle this. And, you know, we're just hearing Jerry's side of it. I'm sure there's two sides to every story. Mr. Dickerson knows the business of football better than everybody. So, I like seeing dysfunction in Dallas, but I think they could have dealt with this 2 months ago.
I think they did him a little bit dirty. You know, he wasn't.
They did him greasy.
They did him a little bit dirty in that he wasn't on the market back when people were looking for a wide receiver. But I also think the market wouldn't have been as kind to him as I think his reputation would lead you to believe. He's not capable of the evolution of a Anquan Bolden or of a Larry Fitzgerald, right? He's not those guys. He doesn't have the wherewithal, the self-awareness to know, hey, maybe I got to move in the slot. Hey, maybe I have to block more. Maybe I have to become a different player. He still thinks he's Dez Bryant of 3 years ago. Remember, he got the ball. The ball was thrown to him 133 times last year. But what was the narrative? Hey, man, Dak ain't looking for me. Dude, he threw it to you 133 times, and you caught it 66.
He dropped.
I'm as big a Dez Bryant fan as there is. We went to the same school. I loved him. The coaches there loved him because when the ball is in the air, no one competes like Dez Bryant for that football. But he can't get open anymore. He can't separate. He doesn't demand a double team. He's not that guy.
Well, they should have told him that in February.
And maybe it's the fact that his contract didn't have the roster bonus until later than other roster bonuses. Some of it is the contract in which it's written, so the Cowboys weren't forced to make this decision early. Could they have released him? Sure. But he probably should have gone in and said, what's going to happen? And the reason he didn't is because he knew the answer, and it wasn't the answer that he wanted to hear.
And I guarantee you, Jerry Jones told him today, Dez, no one's going to treat you better or give you a better deal than the one I'm willing to give you if you renegotiate with me. Dez didn't want to hear that. Ego and pride have led him astray. And again, I don't blame, and look, Jerry's no deacon at a church or no, he's not the perfect human being, not the perfect owner or whatever. But as it relates to Dez Bryant, all that he's put up with and tried to help Dez Bryant for 8-9 years, I just can't fault him here. Again, I want to transition to a different discussion, what I think this whole Dez Bryant's 8-year career, and we'll get to your New York Giants with this. I just think Dez, 8 years in Dallas, a headache, a productive player for 5 or 6 years, but a headache throughout the entire 8-year deal. One playoff victory from a diva wide receiver, and to me, this is just more proof diva wide receivers don't equal W's in this league, and this is why you don't bend over backwards paying Odell Beckham Jr. or any of these diva wide receivers. They don't lead to victories.
Excuse me, did we forget that Tony Romo was his quarterback? Let's not just blame everything on Dez. We've got to remember that his quarterback...
I'm not blaming everything on Dez, but I'm saying one playoff victory in 8 years with Dez.
Let's just jump into my man Odell. We are not trading our beautiful blonde-headed unicorn. Okay, we talk about unicorns in other sports. Odell Beckham is a unicorn. Yes, I can't stand the dancing. Yes, I can't stand the weird relationship with the field goal net. Yes, I can't stand some of the stuff. This is a unicorn. We're not trading him. Pay him his money.
Again, diva wide receivers don't lead to victory. Show me the diva wide receivers that are leading teams in Super Bowls. That's the guys you pay. They're relatively irrelevant. They're nice for fantasy football. They're nice to sell some jerseys. But in terms of winning the Lombardi Trophy, they don't really matter.
We're not getting rid of Odell Beckham. It's a twofold thing with the Giants. I'm just going to, and then I'll let the Hall of Famers speak. We're going to keep Odell and his blonde hair and his antics. We're going to get it together, and we're drafting Saquon Barkley. Mr. Dickerson?
Well, I think when you say diva, it depends. It depends. Let's put it like this here. Let's just say that we're going to say hypothetically. He wasn't. But let's just say that Jerry Rice was a diva wide receiver.
He wasn't, though.
But wait, hold it.
What do you mean he wasn't? What do you mean he wasn't?
He could be. He could be at times. But Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. Now, that led to Super Bowls. When you think of great wide receivers, you think of Jerry Rice, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice. I didn't think of, they didn't go to Super Bowl. They went to the Super Bowl. Mark Clayton, Dan Marino, Mark Duper, Dan Marino. I mean, most definitely, you have to have that receiver. The Giants,
Michael Irving.
You've got to have that guy. I don't think that they have the nucleus in New York to go along with Odell. And most definitely, I mean, you can't pay Odell that money and some of the I'm sorry.
Well, let's provide some context here. It wasn't just Romo. Dallas didn't have a defense. And then the year after, Dez caught it.
The defense didn't drop the field goal snap.
Hold on. That's like 10 years. That's like ancient history.
But we're talking about
Dez wasn't even there that year.
No, he wasn't. That was Parcells was the coach. But the following year, Dez was hurt. I don't think, to your point, I don't think you can be so highly leveraged and dependent upon one guy. Calvin Johnson never won anything. He wasn't a diva, but he's a superstar wide receiver. I will point out that Randy Moss was part of an undefeated team that lost in the Super Bowl. I don't know how much of that was his fault. Randy Moss and Chris Carter were a field goal away from going to a Super Bowl with the Minnesota Vikings, and those are two diva wide receivers at the time. So I'm more with Eric on this in that it does depend. It depends on the construct of a team. And the issues with Odell are different because he wants to be paid at a level above even that of a wide receiver. You could make it work with Antonio Brown, who's a diva. Their defense stunk. I don't think that Antonio Brown's antics kept them out of Super Bowl.
Hasn't won a Super Bowl, though. Hasn't won. And again, I get it. They're not the reason their teams haven't made it to the Super Bowl, but they also haven't been the difference in propelling their team to the Super Bowl. And as it relates to Dez Bryant, again, and I just don't want to trash Dez Bryant today, but I just want to keep this in perspective. When we think about Dez Bryant's 8-year run in Dallas, with all the histrionics on the sidelines and get me the ball, and he's a great player, you know what he's known for? Dropping a ball against Green Bay. That's his legacy.
That was not a drop.
The league called it a drop.
But they went back now and said, "Come on, man."
Yeah, he caught that
Come
ball.
on, that was a catch.
Hold on.
I didn't like the. That's a catch. Look.
And
where's the drop at?
That's a good
Where's
drop.
the drop?
This becomes this is a matter of perspective. If you don't like Dez, it's
Look at Dez.
If you like Dez, you're like, look, Dez not only caught it, he's fighting for every last ounce. He's fighting for a touchdown, right?
I like Dez. I really do, and mostly on his side. But does he lead to wins and losses? And again, right there in that moment, under the rules of the NFL, during that time, that's a drop. He did not protect the football. He dropped it. They called it an incompletion, and it cost him a playoff game. That's what he's known for. That's his biggest play during his 8-year career.
Nobody could have made that catch. He came as
hell of a catch.
Yeah, I agree.
Catch, it was whatever you want. That was one hell of an effort.
Fourth down.
Yeah, that's one hell of an effort. I mean,
I agree. That's just a bad call. A nice suit, but bad call. You have a nice suit, that was a bad call.
That was the rules then. They changed
but
the
changed
rules.
one of the reasons that the rule was changed was
I got it.
And what they say now? That was a catch.
Okay,
But
Jason, maybe here's the do diva wide receivers win? To the Eric Dickerson Hall of Famer point, it depends. You can't have Dez Bryant with a young quarterback. It doesn't work with Dak Prescott. Just like Dante Culpepper didn't work like Randall Cunningham did with those same guys in Minnesota, because the young quarterback, they see that big name wide receiver and they force it in. It leads to turnovers. The whole thing kind of has to work together. So if what you're saying is, hey, the best 53 win more so than the team with the shiny object wide receiver, I'd agree with you. But if you have that shiny object wide receiver that demands a double team, takes a guy out of the box, I'd say that's better than some of these teams that just don't have weapons that can break open. He's just not that guy anymore.
Giants should dust.
I tell you
Odell
what, I'll take Antonio Brown, diva and all.
There's a new boss in town at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he deals in bacon. It's the Bacon Boss Burger, featuring bacon 3 different ways and a blanket of white cheese sauce. And he's joined by other new favorites like the smothered cheesesteak quesadilla, sweet chili shrimp, and Alaska cod classic. All pair perfectly with a Sam 76, a fruity ale with the crisp finish of a lager. Hurry in today and try them all before they're gone at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports, available for a limited time while supplies last. Please drink responsibly. All right, welcome back. Michael Rappaport, Doug Gottlieb are back. Joining us now is former Suns head coach Earl Watson. All right, to the NBA playoffs, where the Cavs just announced their slogan for this year's postseason. The slogan is, whatever it takes. Of course, this replaces their previous slogan of pass it to LeBron. Just kidding. Their previous slogans were all in and defend the land. But maybe a better slogan would be defend the other team. The Cavs have the worst defensive rating among the 16 teams in the playoffs, and they are second worst in a bunch of other defensive categories, allowing their opponents to shoot 47% from the field and 37% from 3. I just don't think this is going to work. I know that the playoffs are about flipping a switch and going to a different gear, but I just don't think you're going to overcome an 82-game regular season of not playing defense and then play enough defense in the postseason. I just don't. I think that's too hard of a switch. I get the guys can play with better effort, but remember, the other team's going to be playing with better effort as well. I think the Cavaliers' defensive deficiencies will catch up with them in these playoffs. Now, is that much of a bold statement? Because it may not catch up with them until the finals. But I don't think they can win a title because of their defensive efficiency or lack of defensive efficiency.
Did they actually announce their slogan? Does
Yeah.
every team announce a slogan? Is that like a precursor to get into the playoffs?
Certain teams, it's worked for LeBron, but
they announce a slogan? Like, did they vote for it amongst themselves, over wine tasting?
I don't have a problem with the slogan.
I have a problem with the fact that they announced their slogan. They're not winning. They could do slogans. They could do defend the land, part 2. They're not winning jack a bone, Coach.
I think transition basketball in the East is kind of limited. Toronto's the best team in the East by record. They play in half court. DeMar DeRozan and that company, they play in half court. Dwayne Casey could be coach of the year. So LeBron is not going to have a problem in the East unless he faces a young 76ers who are too young to maybe close games in a 7-game series. Then I think going into the West, that's when you have that monster of transition defense. In every championship game they lost versus the Warriors, they lost that in transition. And that's where the game is going to change. So you can't flip a switch. You can't say it's playoffs, now it's time to pick it up. You got to have that intensity every game, and especially the last 20 games after All-Star break leading into the playoffs.
I mean, like, look, I think we all see it, right? We all know that there's a reason that there's cliches, and cliches have been repeated over time. Going gets tough, the tough do get going. And offense wins games, defense do wins championships. So none of us feel like the Cavs are a championship team. The problem is the East. Boston's not healthy. Washington can't figure out whether they want to or don't want to play with John Wall. Nobody believes in Toronto because we saw when Toronto was puffing out their chest, they gave up 132 to the Thunder and to the Cavs in the same week, right? So, like, I don't love the Cavs. I don't love the roster. I don't love the idea of a 10-man rotation in the playoffs. I just don't know who else in the East would beat them, Jay. That's the big problem.
And so let me see if I'm hearing you correctly, Earl. You agree with Doug. No one in the East can exploit their defensive inefficiency. Let's say Philadelphia is young, but the Cavs make you play with so much confidence because it's so easy to score the basketball. Can't that perhaps get a Philadelphia over the hump against the Cavaliers?
They have no one who can defend LeBron. And when you're taking the ball out to inbound the ball instead of catching a rebound, getting a steal, and outletting for a fast break, it's going to be half-court basketball. And LeBron is the best at changing the game offensively without a coach's strategy. He's like a big Rondo. Rondo, to me, is one of the best point guards in postseason because he can give you 3 or 4 game plans on the fly. He changes it, he builds it. LeBron has that capability. And no one out the West, to me, can even compete with LeBron except for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and then I think Houston just has too much offense otherwise. I mean, those are the two that they would match up with. So, I mean, look, I look at it and you try and figure out what we're saying about the 76ers. Even watch when they had a 30-point lead last week.
Yeah.
They have better talent. The problem is they get a 30-point lead and, all right, now I'm going to get mine, now you're going to get yours. They have no idea how to close games. It's too much because playoff basketball is just different. They are going to make LeBron's going to make Ben Simmons make jump shots, and he won't even take them, let alone make them in the playoffs. And so does Philadelphia, if Embiid's healthy, do they have a better roster? Absolutely. But that's not going to win you playoff games. LeBron is going to win playoff games if he faces the 76ers, and we've seen Toronto's act enough. They are good in the half court. They are good in the regular season. But how many times do we have to see LeBron destroy the Toronto Raptors before we go, you know what? It's just not going to happen for you.
Okay, y'all sold me on the East. But I want to, before we go, Earl, are you saying that Kevin Durant and Golden State is the only team that can handle LeBron in the finals? Or you think Houston can't handle LeBron?
I don't think the Rockets can handle LeBron. LeBron, who's going to defend him? Joe Johnson? James Harden? Who's going to defend him? He's going to dominate that series. And Kevin Durant, to me, if they had a healthy team, they would get out the first round. I don't think they get out the first round.
Whoa.
I think Pop in San Antonio comes through.
We're going to get to that.
And they just break them down the way Pop breaks down every team.
Break them
We're
down.
going to get to that. We'll get to that later in the show. He doesn't think the Warriors are getting out of the first round. I can't wait to hear this. All right, welcome back. Cowherd is off. Joining me today are Michael Rappaport, Eric Dickerson, and Doug Gottlieb. Let's return to the NFL. We begin with a story that just won't go away, Colin Kaepernick and his national anthem protest. Yesterday, we learned that the Seattle Seahawks postponed a meeting with the unemployed quarterback when Kaepernick refused to tell the club what his activism plans were for the 2018 season. The news predictably inspired woke media, celebrities, and athletes to don their capes and Kaepernick all over social media. White Black Lives Matter impersonator Sean King complained, "Colin Kaepernick is my friend. I have welcomed this man into my home. It is a despicable lie that he does not have plans for his future, for football, or for activism. I've heard the plans and dreams. He is football ready and will continue supporting causes, period." Mike Florio's website, Pro Football Woke, whined this morning that the Seahawks signed the wrong black quarterback, Stephen Morris, to work behind Russell Wilson, the league's best black quarterback. And football expert / comedian Sarah Silverman told her 12 million Twitter followers this: History will not look kindly on the NFL's total abandonment of Kaepernick, treating this civil rights icon, whose crime is kneeling in peaceful protest of heinous, constant, and unpunished police brutality, like his SHIT stinks, solidifies the owners as the dinosaurs they are. Stop it, please. If there's one thing that is obvious throughout this whole Kaepernick controversy, it is that his alleged supporters are the people most passionate about keeping Cap out of the NFL. Did you hear me? The Kaepernicks do not want Colin Kaepernick to play football. Let me say it a different way. Pete Carroll and the Seahawks want Kaepernick to play football more than Sean King, Mike Florio, and Sarah Silverman. Football people want Kaepernick to play football. I'm a football person. I want Cap to play football. That's why I keep urging Cap to get off his knees, focus on football, and use the money he earns in the NFL to support the causes he believes in. That's the best, most powerful, and most effective thing he can do. Being a hero to Sarah Silverman and all the other social justice warrior celebrities is great for your Twitter following, but accomplishes nothing. Kaepernick is being used. Silverman, King, Florio, and all the Kaepernicks are using Cap to build their brands. They need him as a martyr and a victim so that their defense of him appears courageous and righteous. It's not. It's self-serving. It's a beard for their lack of courage and lack of real action. They don't care about Kaepernick's career or his alleged cause. They are intentionally giving Kaepernick bad advice so that he remains unemployed. All right, I don't know if we have any Kaepernicks here, but someone convinced me that I'm wrong here.
I agree with you. I think that the cause, I think that these people are more important than Kaepernick. I really believe that. I think one day that Colin Kaepernick, when he looks back, because he'll be 50 years old one day, he'll sit back and think, man, he made his point. His point is well taken. The point is out there. It's already done. If you want to play football, go play football, because there's going to come a point where we won't be talking about Kaepernick anymore. Hey, Kaepernick's 47 years old. Well, we got to go play football. I just don't want him to one day regret, because all of us have regrets. I have regrets. I always wish I could have played for the Los Angeles Rams my whole career, but it didn't work out like that. It wasn't my call, but since it was my call. But for him, this is his call all the way. If he wants to play, say, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to kneel, but I made my point. Or I'm going to kneel, and if you don't want to sign me, don't sign me.
Which actually makes my point. I would disagree with you, Jason, from this standpoint. You said it before. You don't program a TV network or do a radio show based upon Twitter. Do you think they're really running the NFL based upon the reaction on social media? I don't.
I think?
I mean, you're saying these people are the reason that he's not playing football.
I'm saying they don't want him to play football. They want him as a martyr. That's why they continue to give him bad advice and gas him up to do these stupid things that they're doing. I'm not saying they're not keeping him out. His actions are keeping him out. And the reason why he won't change his actions is because so many people are giving him bad advice and applauding his bad decisions. It would be the same if someone sees me walking into McDonald's applauding me. Hey, that's a good decision, Jason. Go to McDonald's. Again, but they want me to stay, or that person wants me to stay overweight.
Listen, I respect the crap out of Kaepernick, and I expect his passion, and I expect, and I respect, what he's doing. But at any job, and Sarah Silverman, when you go to the Improv or the Comedy Store to see her do her thing, she ain't taking a knee. She's up there doing comedy. You know what I mean?
And collecting a check.
And if they told her at the Improv or the Comedy Store to cut that out, or all the other clubs, she'd have to rethink it. There's no payroll. There's no salary for social activism. So at the end of the day, I respect, what Eric is saying. It's like Kaepernick is on his own. In 3 or 4 years, when his money's out and he's out of the league and we no longer could talk about it because he's no longer physically able to play football, well, Sarah Silverman and all these other people, Sarah Silverman doesn't know the difference between Eric Reed or Eric Dickerson. I don't know what she's talking about. Like, Eric Reed is, it's like, I don't know why she's even chiming. And these people are thinking like they're living vicariously through Colin Kaepernick. And what are you doing? Like, I don't see anyone else kneeling at their job. They're like, go Cap, go Cap. What are you doing at your job?
But you guys are acting as though that do you believe that that's the reason that he's acting as he's acting?
No.
I think it's a big part of the reason why he has not realized the error of his ways. Absolutely. There is so much social media pressure, so many celebrities applauding his behavior that, yes, he is fooled into thinking he's doing the right thing and this is best for him in the long run, and it's not.
Okay, well, first, I would agree with you if you said his girlfriend putting the meme with Django Unchained and the Ravens owner, that kept him out of Baltimore. Okay, that has absolutely hurt him. But I actually think that he's misguided in this, in that the Seahawks asked him what his plan was, and he didn't have a plan. But that's not because of anybody else. They would.
Let me stop you because you're making a fair point, but let me push back. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, has a huge brand with football people, and he's a alleged former lawyer. He keeps writing pieces. They have no right to ask you that question. It's illegal for the NFL to do this. This is proof of collusion. They can't ask you about what your plans are to do on their job. He's being misled by clowns like that. And again, I've asked Mike Florio repeatedly, who are you helping? What are you doing? Besides applauding Kaepernick committing career suicide, what is Mike Florio doing? He needs to question himself and all these people that are feeding Kaepernick gasoline as he does something career suicidal that's not best for him in the long run and isn't best for the causes he believes in. He could have continued on as an NFL quarterback, a high-paid backup or a low-level starter, used that money to support the things he believes in. I blame the people gassing him up with bad information. Yes. That's why he went to Seattle without a plan. You got Sean King and these other guys. Cap can do no wrong. Cap doesn't owe anybody an answer. That's bogus BS.
No, listen, I agree with you that it's bogus BS. But I also disagree with you on this standpoint. At some point, you have to be your own man and make your own decision. I think he tried to do that. I think he tried to do that in Seattle. I think he tried to separate himself. Hey, I don't want to talk about the protests. I just want to come play. I'm ready to be your backup quarterback. Because last year, he visited them.
Where did you hear that?
Huh?
Where did you hear that he said that?
Well, no. I mean, he wouldn't have even had the discussion. He doesn't think he's going to be the starter in Seattle, does he?
I don't know. I think he's trying to embarrass the Seahawks. I think his supporters leak this information out or ask him to leak it out to embarrass the Seahawks, who keep, again, that's why I say Pete Carroll cares more about his football career than any of these people tweeting about him. Sarah Silver, Mike Floyd, they keep trying to bring him into the league.
There's more likely to be an opportunity there, an opportunity that he fits, right? They got an athletic quarterback that runs around, that plays in the playoffs, that hasn't been protected. We're just waiting for Russell Wilson to unfortunately get hurt because they don't protect him. I agree with you. But he went up there, or when they had whatever discussion was had, he didn't have a plan. That's on him. Right. That's not on Sarah Silverman.
He has to say, look, when they asked him, are you planning on having a protest? No. No.
And there also has to be a second part to it, though.
No. I've made my point. I'm done with whatever. I'm done. Whatever he's going to say. I'm done with that. But I come to play football. That's what it's all about. If he wants to play, that's his decision.
You guys are all parents, though. You've never argued to your kids. You're running with the wrong crowd.
Of course.
Again, he's running with the wrong crowd. The crowd that he's running with doesn't want him in the NFL. The crowd that he's running with is in his ear. Though Pete Carroll, NFL owners, coaches, they're the racists.
I don't think Silverman and Floyd, I don't think they're in his ear. I feel like now his girlfriend.
Yes.
And others.
Yes.
And others.
But Jason, I honestly don't think that that's their intention. Like, I don't think that's Florio's intention. I think they operate in a world in which they think it's not fair. And guess what? It isn't fair.
It ain't fair.
Life isn't fair.
Right, life ain't fair.
Right?
And if I came up here and started taking my clothes off, although a lot of people at home, particularly ladies, would be excited, you might not have me back on the show. There's rules that are written and unwritten, and as much as I want to see Cap play, as much as I want to see him play, it ain't going to happen in a couple of years.
Anybody that tries to appropriately explain the rules of life to Cap and the rules of football, they get shouted down. They're the bad people. They're the bigots. And what I'm
trying... They're not protesting.
Yes, and then what I'm trying to just flip the script. No, it's the people in your ear. It's the people that are telling you that what you're doing is the right thing. They're the people that don't want you to play football anymore. They're the people that want to see your platform diminished so they can build their platform. They're building their brands off the backs of Colin Kaepernick. and it needs to stop. All right, welcome back. Michael Rappaport and Earl Watson are back. Joining us now is the founder of the big lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's talk some NBA. To the team hoping to dethrone the Warriors, the Rockets, who come into the playoffs as the 1 seed. You think everyone would consider their season a disappointment if they didn't win the title, but their coach, Mike D'Antoni, doesn't share that sentiment. D'Antoni said, "We would love to celebrate this season with a championship. Everybody would. But I don't buy it that it is all about the rings, because there are a lot of guys that got rings that can't play a lick." Why would Mike D'Antoni enter the playoffs on his knees already making excuses and trying to act like it's got to be championship or bust? When you've built this team with the best record in basketball, the mentality needs to be championship or bust. I don't like Mike D'Antoni coming into the playoffs making excuses already, or the season's fine if we don't win a title.
Season ain't fine. Regular season MVP for James Harden ain't fine. Mike D'Antoni has not been the same since he lost the mustache, okay? 60-plus wins in Phoenix. He's had 50 wins here, 50. It all means nada. It all means nothing. This regular season huffing and puffing means nothing, because come next training camp, when you didn't win anything again, we're not going to know about the MVPs and the wins. It means nothing. It means nothing. I can't believe that he said something like
the entire season.
I totally agree.
I think he's removing the rhetorical pressure from his team. He understands that they have to win. That locker room understands that. James knows it, and Chris Paul knows it. P.J. Tucker, who I coached in Phoenix, is a dog. That conversation is all or nothing. Every possession matters. Get locked in, get focused. And Mike D is playing. He's playing his cards well. He understands this is his greatest chance to win a championship compared to the past.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with the coach here. If he says, it's all about the playoffs, you put added pressure on these guys. Do you remember what Chris Paul's done the last 3 years in the playoffs? Last year, choked in Game 7 against Utah at home. Year before that, broke his hand against the Blazers. Year before that, they were up 3-1 on Houston and gagged. The history of James Harden and Chris Paul in the postseason is awful. Mike D'Antoni, you guys are going to love this. He has 1 playoff series win in the last decade. Why would you talk about the playoffs? I would totally agree with Earl. Just talk about the regular season. It's been great.
But why would you, you think that these little comments are like P.J. Tucker? He doesn't eat. That guy's ready to eat. You don't think Chris Paul knows about the NWA never winning anything in Los Angeles? And that's my guy. And Harden and all that stuff. So I don't think saying that adds anything. Because when they get bumped, and they are getting bumped.
Yes, I would agree with you.
All this is going to come back and bite them.
And when they get bumped, now this comment is going to come back to haunt them. I'm going to sit there and say the coach didn't want it, knew it was coming, and started before the playoffs even started. Hey, guys, we may lose, but we had a great season.
Yep.
He's throwing a ticker tape parade for the regular season championship. That's a joke.
But this is to the media. He doesn't want the media then going asking his guys about playoff failures.
There's other
he
things
wants
he
them talking about the lovely regular season that they were so outstanding
Forget that regular season. Forget that regular season MVP.
Let me ask you this as a coach, Earl. Isn't it sometimes good to apply pressure to your players?
It's personality driven. And I would think that he had a meeting with his team and explained this statement before he made a statement.
Really?
But I guarantee, if not, he definitely had a meeting after this statement. And I guarantee you, Chris Paul and James was like, hey, I know what you said is what you said, and for whatever reason, but let's get this straight right now. In this locker room, that is not our attitudes, and that's unacceptable if you think if we lose, it's okay. It's a title or nothing.
Everybody knows that, though, right? I mean, would you explain that? The reason why I said this was, we know what it is. Like Dan Antonio, James Harden, especially Chris Paul, and I love Chris. They know what it is. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that ring. If they don't walk away with that ring, none of this matters.
Isn't this the same as the Oscars when you get nominated? I'm just happy to be nominated. I can't. Everybody else is so outstanding.
No.
And then you know the real pressure. I gotta win. I gotta win, or this is devastating.
Jason. Chris Paul and whatever actor, Jennifer Aniston, whoever, they don't have control. Well, again, whoever. Al Pacino, they don't have control over the Oscar vote. Chris Paul, James Harden, they can control what happens on that basketball court.
Not against the Warriors.
It's a completely different deal. All right, to the Knicks.
Oh, no.
Who are hunting for the next head coach they can eventually blame for all their problems. After firing Jeff Hornacek, the Knicks are reportedly intending to reach out to Villanova coach Jay Wright, the hottest coach in college basketball, having led the Wildcats to 2 titles in the past 3 seasons. I think Villanova is a far better job than the Knicks' job for Jay Wright. Jay Wright has built a monster and has a chance to become the next Coach K and to be the king of all of college basketball. He's built a system there. He's built a program there, 2 championships in 3 years. Hell, they may be a factor to win 3 and 4. They could win it again next year. Why walk away from that to join the NBA where you don't have that experience, to coach the Knicks, who seem to have nothing but bad luck? Villanova is the ideal job for Jay Wright. He built this. No way he should dirty up his name getting involved with the Knicks.
150% agree. Jay Wright, keep your butt in Philadelphia. You ain't ready. This is a twofold job. We need an NBA coach with pedigree who's tenacious. And we all know being a coach in New York, it's not just about being a basketball coach. You also need to be a press person. And I think the right person for the job is David Fizdale. I would love for St. John's.
Let me ask you this, though. Let me stick to the question. Villanova, better job than the Knicks job?
For homeboy. Not for everybody else, but for homeboy, you don't come to New York with the dysfunction and disorientation. So yes, for Jay Wright, stay your butt there.
The biggest difference between college and the NBA, and this is where Coach Wright, I played against him when he was coaching Hofstra, and I was at UCLA. We played him in a tournament. You could tell he was going to be great. The biggest difference is he can go pick his team. He recruits his own players. He says, this is how we are going to play. When you enter the NBA, the owner's going to have major influence. The front office is going to have major influence, and now you have to create your vision within their limitations. So he needs to stay in college. He's now the king of the Big East, and like you said, he's that younger coach who could be the next Coach K.
Yeah, I saw people online saying, oh, yeah, he should take this job. Jay Wright, get to coach Porzingis. But Earl's right again. I mean, this is a situation where the owner and the GM, they just got together. The culture in New York, I mean, it's just not there. I mean, Mike, I've been a fan for 20 years. It's been a mess since Patrick Ewing left. Jay Wright should definitely stay far away from the New York Knicks.
All right, let's cut a second layer then. He's saying David Fizdale to be the next coach of the Knicks. Mike is. I'm saying, how can you not go to Mark Jackson, in my view? Mark Jackson is well-deserving of a second chance. He played for the Knicks. He's a New York guy. To me, the foundation he built in Golden State is the reason why they've won championships and are the dominant team that they are. And I'm not taking a shot at Steve Kerr, but Mark Jackson, to me, would be the ideal guy for the Knicks.
I love Mark Jackson. And I had the GM who is now at the Knicks, Scott Perry in Seattle when the Sonics were there with Sam Presti, who was assistant GM. He and Mark can coexist. Now, the thing with Mark is a great basketball mind. So these coaches are like, and I'm going to speak for a lot of coaches. Coaches are like artists. Their team is their blank canvas. Don't choose my paintbrush every time. Let me paint it the way I want to paint it. Support it. You can give me advice and give me the why. I'm going to give you my why. We compromise. We come together. And Mark Jackson is very strong in that way as a former point guard. And he played for the Knicks, and he's from New York.
I would love to see Mark Jackson be the coach. I was talking for Mark Jackson, but then they decided to hire Derek Fisher. I was talking for Mark Jackson, and then they decided to hire Coach Horney. I don't think the Knicks are hiring Mark Jackson, although I would love to see it. The sentimentality in me would love to see it. One of my favorite players, one of my favorite college players. I just don't think it's happening. Mark Jackson or my man Fizdale.
Again, if they're strong enough to say they're going to consider Jay Wright, who would come with his vision and want to implement it, I don't think there's any reason to be fearful of Mark Jackson and his personality and his ego and his vision. If you're strong enough to say, I want to get in bed with one of the most successful college coaches, why can't you be strong enough to say, I'm willing to get in business with Mark Jackson?
I don't know that it's, do the Knicks want him? Does Mark Jackson want anything to do with the Knicks? I think that's the real question. Remember, he was Charles Oakley in that old era. They had a lot of issues with Dolan. I think Jerry Stackhouse, a guy who's been in the G League for a few years, a coach on the rise, instilled toughness. I think Jerry Stackhouse would be a good outside-the-box option for the Knicks.
All right, time for last call. Thunder play-by-play broadcaster Brian Davis has been suspended for one game of the playoffs for an inappropriate comment he made Wednesday night. After Russell Westbrook made a ridiculously good pass, Davis said Russ was, quote, Out of his cotton-picking mind, Davis quickly apologized and said he didn't intend to use the phrase in a derogatory way, but the Thunder still decided to suspend him. All right, I think Earl, and we're joined here by Earl Watson, former Suns coach, I think they've taken the appropriate action. You don't need to fire him. I think he deserved some punishment, but I don't think this was a mistake so irregardless that he needed to lose his job or needed some long suspension.
In my take, in the height of all of this, and the way our country is socially, and as long as he's been doing this, and I've known him for a long time, good person, terrible choice of words, you have to be accountable for your words. And to me, the suspension of one game, what message is that really sending?
Well, I think for him, he's being publicly flogged and embarrassed. He's being suspended for a game. Again, if he's been there for 8 years, and Earl, let's keep it, because until this controversy, I've heard that saying a million times and didn't think of the racial connotation until this happened. It's probably something I've probably said myself. I can't remember saying it, but I didn't even think of it in terms of the racial connotations until this happened.
I think we come from two different generations. I'm a millennial. I've never heard that in my life.
You've never heard the saying?
I've never heard it saying. I'm from Kansas, where Missouri is right across the street.
Right.
Former slave state,
Yeah.
free state. So I've never heard it. To me, it's unacceptable. And the way our country is right now, you have to be relevant and understand your social climate.
Got you. All right. To action on the court and a matchup that could shake up the whole postseason, Spurs-Warriors, but these aren't the dominant Warriors everyone has come to love and hate. They have limped in the playoffs, losing 10 of their last 17. Now there are rumblings across the NBA that without the injured Steph Curry, who will miss at least the first round, teams just aren't scared of the Golden State Warriors. And we found the man who is the least afraid of the Golden State Warriors, Kansas City's finest, Earl Watson. You actually think the Spurs are going to upset the Warriors in round one?
I think the Spurs will upset them. I think Pop is actually that good of a coach. And I think LaMarcus Aldridge, who's been known to dominate first rounds, would do exactly that. If you look at Golden State, they're turning the ball over at a high rate. What do the Spurs make you do when that happens? They capitalize on every mistake. Transition three, transition layup, transition free throw line. And LaMarcus is unguardable in 4 games this season, not to give out that the fact that Golden State is 25th in defending the paint.
Earl, you do realize, like, you're predicting what could arguably be called the greatest upset in NBA playoff history. If the Spurs upset these Warriors, even without Steph Curry, that would be an enormous, incredible upset.
I disagree. I think the greatest upset in NBA history that I can remember is Golden State going into Dallas with Baron Davis, taking the Golden State team, and sending Dallas home early. Baron Davis, Steve Jackson, Matt Barnes, that team was phenomenal and fun to watch. I think this upset, remove emotion. Everyone's at me with emotion. Remove your emotions. Like, understand this, style of play is going to be half court. The tempo is going to be slow. Who's best in half court other than Spurs in the NBA, period?
They don't have Kawhi Leonard. Tony Parker is my age. Ginobili is my age and has got a worse hairline than LeBron James. And so this is, you know, a lot of people, cash registers are ringing in people's ears right now, because if you're right and people are running out to bet on it, this would be incredible.
Here's my thinking behind it. The Spurs made it and faced the Rockets last season in a postseason. They had no Kawhi Leonard, they had no Tony Parker, and they beat them in a series. That was game over. The Spurs, first round, no-brainer.
Love that prediction. I love a big, bold prediction. Normally I shout out Tech 9. I'm going to shout out Rich the Factor. You up on Rich the Factor?
I love Rich the Factor.
All right, Kansas City's finest.